All right, so we're starting with some technical difficulties as always because, hey, why wouldn't it be for a post-game show? Thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me because I don't have audio, so let me know. Thumbs up if you can hear me. If not, we'll have to do this all over again. But welcome to the Labatt post-game show. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. We're going to be talking about Penn State football losing to Iowa. It would be ironic, by the way, if we started without audio because, thank you, that's great. Because so did the game, right? The game also started with no audio from the Peacock broadcast. So here we are, 25-24, Penn State loses to the Hawkeyes. And I guess the question is, and I apologize while I'm getting settled in here because we're going pretty quickly after the end of the game. Who do you want fired this week? Hold on one second. I'm hearing that my audio is still a little bit distorted, so let me see if this one helps. I apologize. I don't know why this keeps happening. So let me know if that sounds a little bit better because I'm listening to myself through my audio, but I can't actually hear anything. Sounds great to me. I think I sound amazing, but we'll see if that is okay. Now we got it. Good stuff. Whatever is happening, we'll fix this for the next post-game show. The audio does not seem to want to like me to start these post-game shows. But anyway, let's talk about this game. You know, I thought it was a pretty good game for Penn State football considering that they can't stop the run. Iowa runs for 245 yards. They held the starting running back to 99, which I thought was an improvement in this particular game. But Mark Gronowski runs for 130 of those, 14 yards per carry. I don't know how to phrase this, but a lot of these plays, like I've heard the fire Jim Knowles here in the chat, right? That's not... If the quarterback runs the ball directly up the middle of the defense for 67 yards, at a certain point, we can't say like he's calling the play where they're not paying attention to the quarterback. Players need to make tackles. Elliott Washington had the quarterback directly in his gap, right down the middle. They were square shoulder to square shoulder. Elliott Washington missed the tackle, guys. Penn State's defensive line all night long was getting, I think I can say this, they were getting their ass kicked. They were getting their ass kicked all night long. And the fact that they were in that game, I think, is really impressive and shows how much they were fighting in that game. But, the defensive line for Penn State was absolutely no match for Iowa's offensive line. Again, I'm not saying that there was any holding tonight, but I have been through like 3 Big Ten games now with 0 holding calls. So if the quarterback is running out the back of the pocket and you see guys try to turn and go after him and they just glue to their offensive linemen, that's part of the conversation here. Again, not the reason Penn State lost, but if you're talking about the quarterback running game, yes, they have struggled with that all year long on scrambles and direct runs. But at a certain point, the fundamentals of defense have to take over. Like, the defense is supposed to set the edge. It's not like Jim Knowles is calling plays that don't have, hey, let's have some edge contain, especially in the run game specifically. And those things just didn't happen because Penn State's defensive ends are young and inexperienced, and Zariah Fisher came out of the game, I think, at halftime and didn't play for the rest of the game. On offense, Penn State played scared of its quarterback. Now, that was probably admittedly a good idea, considering Ethan Grunkemeyer threw 2 interceptions, was 15 of 28 for 93 yards. This was some Big Ten football, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. The only thing that didn't happen in this game is they actually scored points, and it didn't turn into a field goal fest. 25-24 is a highly entertaining game for 155-ish yards of total passing in this game. But as always, welcome to the Labatt postgame show. We've got about 5 minutes worth of introduction of just some opening thoughts. Chad is also, and obviously, hot, angry about another loss. I don't know what you were expecting at this point. I genuinely, I don't know what you're expecting at this point. Because, yes, fire Andy Kotelnicki, fire Jim Knowles, fire the water boy. The team struggles to stop the run. I think it's awesome that in this game, they forced a 3-and-out. A 3-and-out. They traded 3-and-outs in the first to second quarter. Like, Penn State went 3-and-out twice. Iowa went 3-and-out. Penn State forced two punts in this game, which is better than they did in the last 2 weeks. So, baby steps and progress. That's what I said before the game. I don't know how Penn State fixes its defensive issues. I don't know how this is going to improve because, just again, we'll talk about this later on Sunday. I encourage you to watch the film study with me over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com if you want to see the gory details. But Penn State's defensive line was being pushed 4 to 5 yards downfield. And yes, Dom DeLuca also struggled in this game. All those things are true, and all those things aren't changing. Penn State doesn't have any new defensive tackles to put out there. They've already put out all the defensive tackles they have. Alonzo Ford, a little bit of a red herring the way he played in the first month of the season. Plus, I'll give him credit for the whiteout against Oregon, where he played fairly well. Since then, this has been more what I expected. He struggles to stay on his feet. And this is a guy who had a lower body injury in November of last year and came back incredibly fast. Penn State's offensive line. There's some things we can get into from the X's and O's. We can get into the 2 quarterback stuff tonight, but I get it. Like, the thing that we're going to talk about now is how angry everybody is about the loss. But they went on the road at Kinnick Stadium and they lost by a point. I think that that's progress for this team. Now, it's exactly where they've been the entire time. They are going to score 20-ish points a game, and they are going to lose by whatever the other team scores by, more or less than that. So, yeah, that's kind of where we go. Stephen Light's here. He, as always, he's a supporter of the channel. I think he's supporting us more than Penn State football at this point. And Stephen, deeply, I thank you for that. I thank you to everybody who's sticking around for these to want to hear the autopsy of the game. Greg says, with everything this team went through this week, I thought it was a valiant effort. Katron Allen was awesome in this game. What did he have by the end of the game? He had 148 yards, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Everything that you wanted, Penn State fans. This is the thing. Everything that you wanted in the universe. Drew Aller's not the quarterback anymore. Katron Allen got 28 carries in this game. They simplified the defense, and they lost. At this point, I think we have to accept that, like, the expectations of this team is to be competitive, which is a far fall, right? But the problems are what they are at this point. Penn State, I don't know what the passing attack is going to look like after this. It's not getting any better going to Columbus to play an NFL-style defense with a quarterback that was making some pretty basic mistakes on his reads, his first read. This is it. Buckle up. Showtime says, got beat by a QB with a knee brace. That's not Jim Knowles' fault. 11 guys on defense, as you're just talking about. A great effort, but not enough talent. I think it's almost enough talent. They're like 2 guys away on defense, you know, and before they were 1 guy before Tony Rojas got hurt. And none of this should make you feel any better, but these are just the facts as we see them here from this last game. By the way, we'll have special guests coming up in just a little bit. I'm Thomas Frank Carr here on the Labatt Postgame Show. It is this fall, nothing goes better with college football than an ice cold Labatt Blue or Labatt Blue Light, because when you bleed blue and white, drink Blue and Light. Born in Canada, brewed in the USA, Labatt has been a game day tradition for fans who know how to celebrate each first down, every touchdown. There were more touchdowns, I feel like, than first downs in this game for Penn State, or at least more than the third down conversions. And here's the best part. When you stock up on Labatt, you can score big off the field too. And if you're following this Penn State football season, you're a Penn State fan, and you're drinking Labatt to make this feel better, you're probably scoring a lot of points right now. So rewards.labattusa.com to get rewarded with the Buy Beer, Get Gear program. So whether you're tailgating with 107,000 fans or you're on the road and you're tailgating with a 409 in the parking lot, crack a Labatt Blue or Labatt Blue Light and make every Saturday a win. Please drink responsibly. Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. So where do we want to go with this, everybody? Corey, he says, I'm actually not mad at this. First time starting QB, offense looked like it had life, creative calls, few head scratchers, but there was promise. As the D, he says, the D would be the weakness, played with heart, just got smoked. Yeah. Yep, they just got smoked. They were trying to get Iowa to throw the football. They were begging Iowa to throw the football with the way they were playing this game. They were trying to stack the box, and it was the exact opposite of everything that we've seen so far this year from the Penn State defense, where Penn State was trying most of this year to take away every passing lane and funnel the ball into the tackle box to have them run between the tackles, and then basically the defense would collapse on it, right? That was the idea in this defense. Now, in this game, what they did is the linebacker stayed in the box, and you can have whatever RPO bubble screen, you can have whatever down the field one-on-one ball you want. Like, basically, Penn State played cover 0 in this game. And yes, the quarterback still got a 67-yard run when they were playing that. Some of the other things they did in the game. Why was Elliott Washington all the way back at the safety position? Because they were switching things up, and they put the safety closer to the line of scrimmage. They flipped those, they inverted those positions in those situations so that you would have a better player at the line of scrimmage. But if you just don't get off blocks, then the quarterback, the running back, the receiver, whoever has the ball is going to get to the safety. And that's what we saw in this particular game. So, you know, the problem is, like, in a lot of these things, it's becoming very basic. And I like to talk about the X's and O's, and I've got a bunch of notes. We got some things we can talk about. But to help spice things up, Nate Bauer is joining the show here. Welcome, Nate Bauer. Here to talk about Penn State losing 25-24 at Kinnick Stadium. Nate bailed on the trip. He'd rather be here with us on the postgame show because he loves you guys so much. And he loves standing in front of the camera and talking about Penn State's loss. So I gave my opening thoughts here.
Yeah.
What did you think about this game? What were your thoughts as it ticked down to 0 here just a few minutes ago?
Oh boy. Well, first, let me apologize for my face being red. Just feels like a precursor. I have to get that out there, right? Just my personal shortcoming.
I take it as a term of endearment. I look like a pumpkin. People have already mocked me about that. It's the internet. People will find whatever flaw and just yell about it. We're here. We're humans. We like ourselves. It doesn't matter if you like us or not. What were you thinking?
So here's what I thought. And this may be too simplistic, right? But Penn State has lost 4 games in a row by a combined 13 points. Back-to-back 1-point losses.
Yep.
One in double overtime. And that is not in any way to suggest that Penn State has a good football team this season and is just a little snake bitten. It's not.
Yeah.
It is simply to say it might be a little snake bitten. Right, they're just
a little bit,
just a little bit.
Yeah, on the injury side, for sure, they are snake bit.
Yeah, they but also of their own volition, right?
Sure,
like they just, you know, whether it's coaching decisions that are made, whether it is failed receptions on passes that are right on the numbers and hit the transfer receiver in the chest that give you a 2-possession lead, whether it is allowing that quarterback specifically to have a 67-yard carry, right? Just in a evading tackles, right? I mean, there were missed tackles there. It wasn't just the fact that the middle of the field was
they defended
vacated.
It wasn't like they didn't see it coming. It was the fact that multiple people got absolutely rocked by the offensive line, got to the safety with very little impediment. And again, this is the reality. This is the Andy Kotelnicki dream of having 11-on-11 football and being able to run the ball with your quarterback. If you didn't notice, I said this on social media. I gave you some examples of it. It's the reason Katron Allen got a 30-yard run. He went full Kansas tonight. He went full bad guy of just like, I don't care. I'm running the offense I want to run. And it was a 2-quarterback system. I almost think like this was actually more of a flow game for Andy Kotelnicki because he could just run the ball and ignore the quarterback for a good bit. And having watched him at Kansas and all the quarterbacks get injured in that offense, I actually think he's better right now at operating an offense without a quarterback. Like, because focus on the run game, they did some things with the option game that allowed them to move players around the box and get better run angles for the offensive line, make them look better. And then Katron Allen had a great game, but it's at the sacrifice of literally everything else. And as you pointed out, the receivers, once again, absolutely absent from the contest.
Yeah, they didn't play well. I was going to make a joke about playing Smolik because they were back in Iowa, but I'm not sure if anybody's really feeling like jokes right now.
No. Let's pivot away from the joke because we do have to get to one thing quickly, and we can talk about the defense. And we contractually, Nate, here on the postgame show, we need to find a defensive player of the game. Go for it.
Zakee Wheatley. It's got to be, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. But before we get to that, the defensive player of the game is brought to you by State College criminal defense attorney Matt McClanahan. Matt is a Penn State alum and a Penn State superfan. He's a friend of mine now at this point. Good guy, and I like talking to him. He's a smart bettor. I was hesitant to say the best one I know. Him and Greg, one of the two of them. And he was talking about Sharps always like teams that fire their coach and have a quarterback change. All those things. You get a team that's fired up, a lot of emotion. So he's a Penn State fan, so he picked Penn State to win, but mostly he was picking the cover. So he's pretty happy tonight. Also, he's a criminal defense attorney. So that's the main thing we need to tell you is like, you'll never need one, most likely. You should hope you never need one. But if you do need one, Nate, it is very good to know a name. You don't want to be panicking on a decision like that. You want somebody who can represent you and is a consummate professional and a part of the State College community, if you're here in town. So if you ever need him, give him a call all the time. He's available, or you can check him out at mattmlaw.com. So why Zakee Wheatley? I mean, I know why, but why?
Well, the interception was spectacular.
That was so cool.
That's got to count. That's a big one. He had a really key stop on a 3rd and long that got Iowa off the field there in the second half, and just generally, I thought made plays kind of throughout the game. I mean, he's just kind of like, if you're looking at this defense and you're trying to see what I think everybody else saw, including us at the beginning of the season, which was some level of talent and, importantly, playmaking at all 3 levels of the defense. Zane Durant and Denai Dennis Sutton on the defensive line. Tony Rojas at linebacker for sure was a playmaker. And that's not his fault, right? He got hurt. That happened. And then Zakee Wheatley and AJ Harris certainly was part of that conversation. Davian Collins, you name it. I guess point being is Zakee's kind of the only one. He's kind of the only one that's making those plays.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about splash plays, and defensively, they are important. They are a huge piece of what Penn State believes is necessary to win games. Generally, period. Yeah. And he's kind of it. He's kind of the only one that's doing it.
I got to get to this from Kyle, and we're gonna go here. Considering Franklin made this team, yes, fire everyone besides Terry Smith. Come on, T. Frank. He's the CEO. This is his horribly constructed team. Nate, the guy's already football dead. You want to drag his corpse out now and fire him again? Yes, they lost the game. I understand you're mad and frustrated. They lost the game. They already fired the coach.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Why are we still talking? If there's a move forward, it was supposed to be this game where they came out and fought and played with passion. None of us predicted they were going to win this game. And I don't know, Nate. I'm playing around a little bit, but it is a little ridiculous. James Franklin was already fired. Why are we bringing that up now?
I'm going to push back on you here, T. Frank, and in a rare instance. And you know how in baseball, the runners that are on base are the responsibility of the pitcher who put them there. And so the relief that comes in and gives up the grand slam is only responsible, I think, for one of those runs, right? The three go on the pitcher that put those runners on base.
Yeah.
Look, like there is a reality here that this team is not constructed to win this season. They have not.
No.
They do not have the pieces. They do not have the coordinator. Like, and this is absolutely revisionist history. That's what we get to do in a situation like this. But yeah, I just think that, look.
But you are like, I guess this is my point. It's like that already that price has been paid. Like we still have to go through the rest of the season and talk about these things and deal with these things. And I guess like you're right. It is James Franklin's fault that they lost this game because of the situation that this is in. That's absolutely fair to say from like the 50,000-foot view. At the same time, the players are playing the game, and it is the reality that if you don't allow not that fast quarterback to go 67 yards up the middle when you had 4 minutes left because all you need to do is make a tackle, you might have won this game. Like I don't know. Like I have a hard time with this because it's like, sure, you can say that, but then like we're just mad about the same thing. And like I do want, like, I hope we get to move on at some point in the conversation because yes, you're right.
I'm not mad about anything. This is something that we're watching and observing and talking about.
Right. Right.
But they, like I have always been, and I think coaches agree with this for the most part, players win games, players lose games. And so were they put in positions to succeed tonight? I think so, for the most part.
I think the defense was. Honestly, that's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm like, I don't know how you can blame James Franklin for this. I think you can credit Terry Smith for the fact that this team didn't lose by 30. I mean, there's a reality. The way they were playing previously, this was a much better run defense performance. And I know 245 yards, but Iowa only managed 300 yards in this game. That's a defensive improvement. And I understand, like, from where they were to where they are now, absolutely furious about it. Penn State fans can be furious about it. But I don't think Jim Knowles like called a bad game. He's not calling the, hey, forget about the quarterback plays. Yeah. I don't know. Ryan says here about Jim Knowles, even at Ohio State, Knowles' defense struggled the first 2 years, then became elite. Now he has far more talent, obviously, at Ohio State. So, yeah, the complexity of the defense, it's from the volume of the things they're trying to do, which is a good thing if you've got, and this is the thing, Nate, is a veteran team, especially in the secondary. That seemed like a thing that was going to work out fine when you've got three corners that are all veterans, Zakee Wheatley in the secondary. And it wasn't even that they were busting coverages, Nate. It's just they were not playing fast, you know? And they played faster tonight. And so I'm interested to see, like, looking at this game, there's not a whole lot to break down from the passing game perspective, Nate, because, like, they didn't 16 throws, and I think half of those were RPOs. So, like, this
68 yards.
Yeah.
No, look, I don't really understand, and this is kind of comprehensive for all four games, all four losses. I don't understand any analysis that does not acknowledge legitimately the role of all three phases of the game in those losses. Again, it is living on this dual plane of the one of the most key plays in the game was a field goal block return for a touchdown.
Yep.
Also, Cam Wallace let a kickoff return slip through his hands to the turf, pinning his team at the 10-yard line. Right? Key mistakes, key plays. Defensively, there were good plays defensively. There were key moments defensively that they shined. They also had these kind of spectacular breakdowns, and the same thing is true of the offense. There were moments where the offense was looked to be freer. Katron Allen did run the ball well tonight. But then they also had drops, and they also had some curious play calls and decisions that right, like the and you can explain the fourth down sneak to Luke Reynolds better than I can, but like
I'm not difficult. He it's not difficult. We'll get to it, but yeah, go for it.
No, that's it. It's just like I can't wrap my head around this notion of like pointing the finger and just saying Jim Knowles. Like, no. It's Jim Knowles.
Yeah.
And Andy Kotelnicki and Trevor Pena and Cam Wallace.
Right? And like, Ethan Grunkemeyer.
And Ethan Grunkemeyer. And did he not acquit himself for the most part in that atmosphere, like fairly nicely?
Yes. Yeah, they played scared of their quarterback, which I think is part of the conversation here as well. Both teams played scared of their quarterback, but I think with some of the things that Ethan was doing from a process standpoint, he missed some reads early, and I think that caused them to get a little bit skittish. And then, of course, he threw with confidence to where a slant where you had a tight end against a corner, and you want the tight end to like big body the corner. The point of that is a matchup thing. Small corner, big tight end. And then he was late with his slant. He was stutter stepping. He wasn't playing physical through the ball and trying to catch the ball. And then it leads to an interception, which gives the points. But I want to get to a couple things here. Benjamin Sakmar agrees with you. He says Trevor Pena dropped what could have been a game-sealing touchdown, hit him right in the chest, would have been a sliding catch, but he had to make it. Yeah, that was a big change in the game where they had to settle for a field goal when they had a touchdown and they dropped it. Again, the transfer wide receivers, and going back to everything that Pat Kraft said, Penn State was not aggressive in the portal, and they got a trio of wide receivers that have not met the moment for this team this year in the portal. James Franklin put this team together. They put it together around quarterback Drew Aller, and now that he's not here, I do want to talk about the offense, and I do want to talk about Andy Kotelnicki because it's getting a little bit awkward out there on the internet. Sun Win says we have a QB for passing and a QB for running. What could go wrong? This was the most frustrating and infuriating thing watching this game. I don't even care they were going with two QBs. If you never let the option quarterback throw the ball, you get exactly what you got. Diminishing returns. After the first quarter, that whole plan was pointless because you showed Iowa you have no interest in throwing the football so they can just put everybody on the line of scrimmage, attack gaps, corral, extend, push you to the sideline, and it was just minimally effective after that. I was drawing these up. I was begging them because what happened in those situations is Iowa is blitzing like crazy, Nate, and it's cover zero. So Jackson Smolik was a 3-star quarterback that made the Elite 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he can throw the football. Mm-hmm. His arm didn't fall off, did it?
I don't think so.
So then he's entirely capable of throwing a slant on a fake power, whatever you want to do in that situation, play off of that and let him throw the football. But because they're playing a 2-quarterback system, he has one play. He had one play in this game, and it was a read option. That's all it was. They had 2 blockers for him, and it was a read option where the rest of the play was just a regular inside zone. And by the way, I like the fact that they got back to inside zone in this game. They have been not running a lot of inside zone. They've been going more to gap blocking. I don't know. Maybe that's James Franklin meddling. Earlier in the season, they went back to just running zone, and it was more effective in this game. But, Nate, the thing that maybe I thought was interesting.
Based?
Yes and no. Inside zone works against a lot of stuff and a lot of teams. So it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say there's anything different from this game as there was from Northwestern. They run kind of the same system. So like, that's a curious thing I noted in this game. And again, like fire James Franklin. I've always said, I will give you the verbiage for it. You don't need me to say it. And these are maybe that was an influence of his on the offense that they were running more gap blocking this year. I don't know. But the thing that I found interesting, Nate, is it's not just the call is coming from inside the house. it's not just fans. Letterman are now chiming in on social media. Jahan Dotson, Allen Robinson, Fred Hansard, just the three that I saw. Nobody likes this offense. Zero people that are associated with Penn State football are on board with this. And I know I started with who are we firing tonight, and I'm kidding, but also yeah, it's not going great for the Penn State offense.
I have some questions. Until the second half, how did you think the offensive line blocked for the running game?
Pretty good. I thought it was a bounce back performance. And part of it, by the way, was because of what they were doing up front with that option game and some of the stresses they were putting on Iowa to shift linebackers and allow the blocking angles to be better for the offensive line so that it didn't have to be we're winning straight up on every single play. Now, I got to go back. This is one of those 50,000-foot view sort of things. I don't know the nitty-gritty details of all the things that were going on. But generally, I thought that as much as I'm saying this pivot was nobody liked it and they threw for 95 yards, there was an aspect of it that did allow them to run as well as they did in this game. But it dries up after a while because of what I talked about of not having that threat of passing at any point. So
maybe a step of progress potentially there.
Potentially. And again, I think that there is this level of freedom where you're not trying to build the passing attack around the senior quarterback who can do a lot of stuff. So tempo was out. They didn't do any tempo. And they dipped into the RPOs, which I thought was a smart thing with Ethan Grunkemeyer, something I talked about pregame, where he's got a quick release. He's a quick decision maker, sometimes a little too quick a decision maker, and he was able to get the ball into those spots early in the game, which gave them some life. But everything's unsustainable if you're one-dimensional. And that's been their biggest problem all year long is the passing game has been anemic and the running game has been anemic. And then when you fixed one of them, it was at the sacrifice of the other having really a pulse whatsoever. And it's funny because I remember watching I don't remember if it was 2022 or 2023 Kansas film. And Jalen Daniels and the other kid, they all got hurt and the offense was down to an option quarterback, and they basically just ran triple option on every single play. And it feels like that's where we're getting with this offense here at the end.
You think that's you think that's the next step? That's what you're going to see?
I mean, we saw it tonight. If you're saying that the reason that Ethan Grunkemeyer wasn't running those options is because they didn't want to get him hurt, because I think Jackson Smolik is a great athlete and an underrated person in this conversation. I don't know why they won't let him throw, but yeah, as Sun Win said, they have a running quarterback and a passing quarterback. And it was just they went back to, okay, what if we did what we did last year, but now with a freshman and a redshirt sophomore instead of Aller and Perbula. We'll just do that, but different this year. I don't know where you go.
What has to happen? What has to happen to get the passing game started? How do you fix that? What are the solutions to some of the issues that they have there? And how much of it is performance execution based currently?
So there's a couple things that I'm not great at, and I just want to be upfront about that of what is a good passing attack? What's a better idea than they have? I don't feel like I read the report and be here's what's not going well. I have seen some things, and now I think it's fairly clear to say Andy Kotelnicki's passing game is not necessarily sophisticated. It does not generate a lot of consistently open players. They did a great job last year with Tyler Warren, but the simplicity of the passing game, I think there's a lot. And now that you have a freshman quarterback, it's gotten even simpler. So that might be part of it. But at the same time, if you're operating a drop back passing game, because that's the thing. there are different buckets of passing: RPO, play action, and then like the straight drop back game. You got quick game. There's a bunch of different buckets in your playbook. And they basically had a very limited amount of actual drop back passing. And a couple of times I thought Grunkemeyer performed pretty well in those. I would like to see them trust him a little more. Like, he's already thrown the interceptions. What's there to lose? Let him be a quarterback out there. There was a little bit. Well, that happened anyway. But they, as you pointed out, with this particular plan, they almost won it. But I felt like there were times where they were kind of stuck in the mud because they didn't have a drop back passing game. And by the way, this is kind of a long view of the season, because if this is the plan, this will absolutely not get you 24 points against, or 17 points is what they scored on offense. That won't get you 17 points against Ohio State. I don't see that's getting you 0 for the entirety of the game.
I think, well, one, as we're doing this, I have just so much respect for the fact that you can and do psychoanalyze a game in like right after the fact, like after it just happened. I think that it would be very beneficial to see this one again and see what some of the breakdowns are. But I will say, you know, I'm going to Jim Mora myself here. You play to win the game, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's probably some validity to the notion that Penn State scores 28 points if Trevor Pena catches a ball that hit him in the chest. And that those 28 points ostensibly, you think generally, I mean, I do think this is fair. Like if you chart out again, right, it's kind of the inverse of Oregon, where everybody said, oh, if you hold Oregon's offense to 17 points, you expect to win the game. At Iowa, if you score 28 points, you expect to win the game.
I imagine they would have. Honestly, like, yes, that's a very fair point. And that is one of those things where what's the optimal scenario here, right? So like those are the two conversations. What can you do, and what is the optimal scenario? So when you ask me like what can they do going forward, like trying to find what Ethan Grunkemeyer does well in the passing game is like the hope for the offense. But this week, this game plan, it almost got him the win. But it is very obvious, and I guess this is the thing, is like Penn State's now in the perception game business. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like toxic atmosphere at home got the head coach fired. Toxic atmosphere among the fans and the people watching the game is going to get the offensive coordinator fired if this continues. And again, I agree with you. Like they almost won the game. And I feel like there was some validity to the should have won the game if your receiver catches that ball in the end zone. But this is where we are now when we are now in the timeline where I think like anything is possible, because I do think like you could see Andy Kotelnicki not being the offensive coordinator next week. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I have some question, and again, like it's not an excuse. It's not it's not validating his performance. Clearly, the offense for Penn State has not been where they thought it would be, where it needs to be. Again, I think that the offensive line's execution for most of the season has been underwhelming. I think, certainly Nick Singleton's contribution, you expected him to be a superstar. He has not been. Certainly, you don't expect Drew Aller to break his leg right in the 6th game of the season. You expected much more out of your 3 transfer receivers. You expected, I think it's fair to say, much more out of your tight ends, at both as blocking tight ends and as pass catching tight ends. One of those touchdowns that Iowa had is the result of a tight end having the ball bounce off of his chest. And I'm fine with saying that's not his fault if it's not his fault and that's Grunk's fault. Like whoever you want to put the blame on. I guess I'm just saying this notion of oh boy, here we have to go all the way back to August when James Franklin talked about Drew Aller needing other players to make plays for him, right?
Yeah.
That was a key ingredient they felt to what this team's success was going to be this season. And I saw, I think, again tonight, another manifestation of a Penn State team that really, outside of Katron Allen, has not had its offensive playmakers that were being counted upon to be playing their best make really any discernible plays.
Yeah. So Jeff D wants to know, why was Dom DeLuca playing? I'd love to know. So I'm going to try to answer this question earnestly, because like I'm a genuine person. So like there is the obviousness of like he is struggling, and it's gotten to the point that like he's got a family. I don't want to be insulting to him or to ever, but he is on the field, so we do have to talk about it. So you would imagine Keon Wiley is the other guy, right? And they've been bringing him in at Sam linebacker, at the field linebacker position, which they've been using him basically as a pseudo defensive end, playing him in run situations. So one of two things: they don't trust him to play the will, or he hasn't been playing the will, and there is no backup. And the backup might be LeVar Arrington or something like that. I don't know. Kari Jackson might be the backup who hasn't been playing. He's been out for a while. Is it Alex Tash, a freshman, that they don't think is ready? Is there actually a backup will? Who would it be? I imagine it'd be Keon Wiley. But we have not seen Keon Wiley come onto the field and play that position. He's been playing a different position when he stepped on the field. So I'm left with one of two options, one of two doors. They genuinely don't think he can do it, and he would be worse than Dom DeLuca, or he hasn't played the position because he's playing that other one, and like he just hasn't had enough time on task at will linebacker to do it. And if that second one's the case, this bye week needs to be a crash course on how to play will. Also, I think I've seen him play will like in the blue-white game and in the offseason, and so like I don't think that. I'm just trying to give some rational benefit of the doubt in this situation, and that's as best I can give you, honestly.
There seems to, and again, I mean, this is a season-long thing. This isn't just certainly a James Franklin thing. I think you continue to see it with Terry Smith, right? There are some elements to this of it's not like Terry Smith saw things that differently from James Franklin. Maybe he will, right? Maybe because he did say earlier this week, it was like, hey, you're just trying to get your feet under yourself.
Yep.
And get settled, and then you can start to make some personnel decisions. And maybe there will be some personnel decisions that he is more willing to take the risk.
I mean, we saw Kobe Howard and Tysier Denmark, right? Already. There's on that side, there's evidence of what you're saying.
Yeah, right. So, but how much?
Right.
And so like, but again, it's this fundamental conversation about trust between the coordinators and their players, and that tightening up collectively in the midst of this. I think it's, and maybe it's not counterintuitive. I'm not exactly sure where I land on this, but if you're in the middle of, just a complete train wreck at the blackjack table, are you more likely to deviate from the rules, right? Like you're playing your odds. You're like there. I think there's less of a willingness to say, well, screw it. Like let's just. I'm willing to put the player out there who I trust the least from all, like, again, and I know this isn't popular, but they've got this cameras and analysts who track every single snap of every single rep of every single practice and available everything, right?
Drills, everything.
Drills, every single thing that happens. And I understand the argument of, well, that's different from a game. But they use that data from all of those reps, thousands of reps, and it is telling them, hey, this guy's in the wrong spot too often.
Yep.
Right? This guy is executing at and I know it's like mind-blowing to say, well, how can they execute less frequently than Dom DeLuca? Right? Given
he's in the right gap. Like, here's the deal. He's in the right gap. He's doing his job. He just can't functionally produce. And that is the problem with the defensive line as well. That's been my problem of the analysis of this team. Is it started with they're not bad. They're just not making a lot of plays, and there's a little bit of leakage. And now it's like, now they're not even necessarily staying in their gap. Like, they're like, this offensive line was eating all night long. Like, it is just getting bent and bent and bent, that the whole front.
Is that not a result of trying to make up for other deficiencies? Players going into their own bag and saying, well, I can't rely on the guy next to me, right? And so
and it's also a fundamental lack of, again, I go back to some of these situations where you've got to hold the edge. There's a lot of basic things in football, like just a lot of things that just are easy to understand. Don't let anyone to the outside. And Penn State struggles to consistently keep players inside the formation. And I'm not even talking about just on passing plays. I'm talking about on running plays too, where it's a basic thing of, it doesn't matter what happens. You cannot get inside if you are the guy who's supposed to be on the end man of the line of scrimmage. And in this game, Ethan Grunkemeyer went inside on a play, and suddenly the guy who's probably going to play in the NFL, 67, throws him to the inside, and now he's trapped. So he just like one step too far inside. This team is a little underbaked, you know? Like, there's talent, a little bit underbaked this year. Ryan wants to know this.
True freshman.
Yes, because Jalen Harvey was not playing in this game. This is a better question for you, Nate, and this is just speculation. I don't think either of us have an answer. He wants to know, is it possible DeLuca's backups are saying they want to redshirt and transfer so that there isn't anybody to play? So people are sitting out, they're opting out of the season quietly behind the scenes. Is that something you would think would happen on this team?
No, and I mean, like, now, sure, but we also have, again, this collection of evidence from the first 6 games where they also weren't playing. Right. Certainly, I do think that the redshirt conversation on the whole is fair based on what we know of giving players players and their families that leeway to really, like, kind of side with them in terms of, if you feel like you're going to play sparingly over 5 games, that may not have been worth it to burn that red shirt. Like, I think that happens.
Yeah. They had that view of the team. Now, it was I don't want to say it was a self-serving view, but they had that view of, like, we're not going to play a guy if it's not necessary. Now it's like the other way around, right? Like, we're not going to play unless it's necessary.
Well, I guess my hang up with all of this is, look, we don't have access to Jim Knowles every week, but the access that we've had in the bye week and preseason practice, pretty consistent in him saying Penn State only has 3 linebackers who can play linebacker. And one of those linebackers in the time since is no more. He's not dead, but, like, he can't play football.
We call it football dead. It's just to make it easier. We call it football dead.
Not playing anymore. And so, I just, sometimes I think that the simplicity of the answer is so obvious. Well, just play someone else. Just play. There has to be somebody else. I feel like the Grim Reaper, there doesn't have to be somebody else. Sometimes you just don't have somebody else who can do the things that you want to do. And that includes understanding the deficiencies of the player that you are using, right? It's not ideal. It's not ideal, some of the situations that Penn State is dealing with, really in all 3 phases of the game right now.
Yeah. I want to get to one of these things. We talk some key plays in this game that I thought were indicative of the conversation we're having, and just kind of the frustration, especially on offense. Luke Reynolds is a talented player. He's had a rough year. I don't know what's going on? Like he played with more physicality as a freshman than he did this year, truthfully. Mm-hmm. He is in the A gap on that quarterback sneak. So they that sneak that led to a field goal, the fourth down that they didn't convert. He's in the A gap. He takes the snap and he starts running his feet behind the center. And they're getting some yards. He needs a yard, right? It was 4th and 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, he's thinking of himself as a space athlete. So he tries to change gaps. He tries to bounce outside on a QB sneak. He stops his forward momentum, chops his feet, tries to go laterally, and it's over. I that's very hard to like say, the play calling was terrible. That was a terrible decision. If he just keeps pushing, he has let's say a coin flip chance of getting that first down. But a young player, second-year player, makes that mistake and for some reason doesn't have that internal instinct of like, this is what I do on this play. He tried to be an athlete in a situation where you need to be a football player, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned, and we've talked a lot about Trevor Pena dropping that ball on second down. Here's a situation. Here's a place where I understand that the first time Iowa blitzed Ethan Grunkemeyer, he freaked out. Like, legitimately short-circuited in the pocket because he thought he was getting one coverage, and suddenly there's a corner blitz, and he tried to run away. Young player, totally understandable, and so you don't want to put him in that situation too often. 3rd and 9 to then go against a zero blitz, which you know they're going to blitz on 3rd down, to go with a quarterback draw. It's an overload pressure. You don't have enough guys to block it, so the one-on-one comes in the backfield, and the safety tackles him by the chest. And that's a very frustrating. Yeah, like because it wasn't illegal. He just grabbed him here and tackled him like a 9-year-old. It's very frustrating to see that call that gave you no chance because you decide. This is what I'm going back to. Like, you have to trust your quarterback to be a quarterback at certain points in the game, and they didn't. They chose not to do that, and he had just rewarded them with a really good pass for a potential touchdown. I guess that's the frustrating thing, to get back to like the offensive side of stuff and the frustrating play calling and the late game play calling, which again, I guess like James Franklin wasn't interfering in the bad late game play calling because nobody liked the play calling in this late game situation either, Nate. A blitz. Again, the game ended on a blitz where Ethan Grunkemeyer tried to roll against pressure, break out the backside, get the ball out, and I can't believe he got the ball that close to a receiver, actually, if I'm being honest. I thought that was a total, like, it was going to end embarrassingly. And it didn't. Like, he actually got the ball out. Yeah, we've seen that. So,
look,
yeah.
Let's just hammer it home, right? On the notion of trust, right? I think it is probably fair to say it, as a concept, does not exist in Penn State football in any form right now this season. Teammate to teammate, teammate, player to coaches, coaches to players, maybe even coaches to coaches.
Yeah.
Like, it is almost and it is like, just to stress this, I saw a team that fought tonight. I thought they still played hard, and we're trying to win. It is simply a matter of abandoning the plan to try to get yourself over the top, and doing anything to do that, like, just tends to lead to breakdowns. And those are the things that just repeatedly happened again on Saturday night.
Yeah, Rad Worker asked a question here, has a bit of a comment. He says, I heard that the present defense from previous coordinator, I don't know what he's trying to say. I know what he's trying to say, but the words don't make a lot of sense to me here. He's saying the previous defenses were attacking style defenses. Noel's concept is to read and react. Not sure where that thought came from. Well, I don't know which thought you're thinking of, but yes, that is an accurate description of the situation, and it is to a certain degree the problem here. Penn State's defensive line is an attacking style defensive line. They don't have the bodies to play in a more traditional style. I don't think they're so far off that if there was some sort of compromise that it could have worked, because these aren't untalented football players. Xavier Gilliam is going to be a really good football player, by the way. Like, he's fun to watch. He's a sophomore defensive tackle who makes some plays, and in a different situation, I think would be, thriving. But yeah, this year, the combination, that's the problem. The defensive line was a mismatch for what they wanted to be, and it's probably in hindsight a really bad decision for this team to try this style of defense. But that does not make Jim Knowles a bad defensive coordinator. It makes it a bad fit. And for the next coach with an expensive defensive coordinator already on the roster, does he stick around? Can you build a defensive line in the portal that will fit this better? I don't know. There's a lot of questions. I don't think it's a lost cause that Jim Knowles is like a huge mistake as a defensive coordinator. It was a mistake for this year, clearly. But long term, like, having seen what he does, like, it's not like this is the defense everybody is playing in the NFL. This is a very sound philosophical decision from the defensive decision to move in this direction. It's just they're not good enough to operate this level of a defense.
I will maintain my alternate timeline stance, which is an alternate timeline where Jim Knowles comes in to a defense where everybody left. Denai left.
Yep.
Zane left. Zakee left. And you just the expectations plummet because everybody on offense also left. It creates a runway where maybe you see, like, and this is what's going to be super interesting. All the time that could have been spent may have been well spent developing players who don't know what they're doing. Yeah. Right. Just like taking your lumps, because that's what they're doing anyway. They're taking their lumps. So now, I mean, I do think there is some validity to, hey, all right, you are caught between a rock and a hard place in honoring the presence of the guys who chose to stick it out and play at Penn State this season, and their careers and all the things that are important for their career trajectory to continue versus what's next. And now it's even less certain because you have no idea how many guys may choose to just abandon it altogether, right? So you could, like, say you pivot and you devote all your resources to these young guys and say, hey, we're gonna go all in.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And I'm going to sum up this point and Dan's point. Dan says, apologies, just joining. But Kotelnicki, O'Brien, and Higgins need to go. Just awful. Guys, they're all getting fired. But you actually need someone to run the team. You can't just have the GAs running the team. Somebody has to... currently. There has to be somebody to turn the lights on in the morning. You can't fire everyone right now. Yes, you can fire the coordinator, and you can have somebody else call plays. But if you fire the wide receivers coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterbacks coach, it is then just Trace McSorley. And, like, sure, everyone loves Trace, and then when the quarterback still plays poorly, are you going to turn on your prodigal son?
Yeah, he's the bad guy, yep.
He's the bad guy then. Like, coaches can only do so much. And yes, this is the thing. When you fired James Franklin, these are the decisions that are immutable. You just have to wait for them to happen because they will happen at some point. And I don't like saying that, like, I'm not a person who's rooting for people to lose their jobs. I have the empathy of, like, I don't want to lose my job, so I wouldn't want to root for somebody else to lose theirs. As a fan, I understand the frustration. You're just going to have to wait for some of those decisions to be made. Kotelnicki could be this week, could be next week, could be at the end of the season. I doubt he's coming back in any capacity as a Penn State football coach. So the same thing is true of the players. The same thing, and this was the point. Sorry, I just want to pivot to this quickly.
Yeah.
That there's a certain reality where those guys aren't going to be here. Why not give these kids a chance to get some tape so maybe they get into the portal and somebody might take a look at them? That's also like a thing that can happen this year.
I also think it is fair to, armchair quarterback the timing of firing Franklin when they did, in the sense that if 3-3 was already a bridge too far for, right? You've got fans in the stadium that are just really upset and they're screaming things at them, whatever. Okay. Like totally. It is what it is. I mean, it's a failure, and they didn't like the future direction that the program was taking. I think it is fair to say maybe the urgency of that is less, maybe diminished a little bit by having 2 road games sandwiched around a bye, right? Where like that, you don't have to deal with the PR of James Franklin being screamed at. Like, just like, this is his mess. Let him deal with it.
Yeah.
For whatever it is, right? The next 3 weeks until you get back from that Ohio State game, and then you can do it, or whatever. I mean, just
right.
I just think there's like probably some alternate timelines where maybe it is defrayed a little bit from what it's become, but now it's just like, as you say, you cannot fire everybody. You have to still have, and I mean, especially in a situation where it's already a lost cause. There's not coming back from this. This year is gone. It is what it is.
And that is going back to your point of, and this is what Pat Kraft said on Monday. Once I made that decision in my mind, I had to make that decision. That's how he operates. Whether that's a personal thing, like he couldn't talk to James without just being like, "You're fired," or if it was like, "Why wait?" Well, this is the why. And again, like, to what we said to start this, and we got lost in all these other things, and we got lost in the emotion of the show, which, by the way, you're allowed to have your emotions, but like, my analysis is this was a pretty good game from Penn State. They did a lot of things better than they've done previously in this game. Like, it was more cohesive than previous games. And it wasn't super cohesive at all times, but they almost won in a game that they should not have been in my opinion.
Can I just, there's one capper to the train of thought, which is, Terry Smith's going to be the bad guy by the end of that Ohio State game.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have been had James continued to take some of those bullets. So, like, I get it. The coordinator's disappointing. Hagan's disappointing. Like, the disappointment is there is an avalanche. There is no shortage to be spread. Players, coaches, all of it. And
this is our first time doing this, Nate, in a long time, where this is just like a bad season. This is just a bad season.
It is. Not acceptable for Penn State, and they've decided to move on from it, but also one that they, like I said last week, they have to play the games. They still have to show up.
Yeah.
They're contractually obligated, right? So you got to buy this week, and then you got Ohio State next week. They are in a situation where they have to make the best of it. I don't know what that looks like. Certainly, I think that a 25-24 loss at Iowa is like probably not the worst thing in the world, given some of the alternatives where they could have lost this game 30-3, right? Yeah. They could have quit. There's every reason for this team to quit. So like, do you think can't only be the one-sided? Do they stink? Have they lost all the games? Yes. But are they still trying? There's got to be something for them to build on coming out of it.
There's got to be some point of continuing to do this, because otherwise this is all going to be rough for everybody. Do you think that after this, do you think that it gets worse? Schedule and opponents aside.
Yeah.
Do you think that players start to pack it in? Do you think that Terry Smith can get them to continue to fight and believe and push?
I don't know. I mean, that's an unsatisfying answer. Terry Smith saying, pray for me, right? Like suggests that his hands are full as it is. You already had a locker room that was divided by pointing fingers. It was the offense fault. It was the defense's fault. It was special team, right? It was everybody else's fault, but the guys making the accusations. I don't see how it gets better out of this. Like the one thing that they had in terms of like a reset was maybe being galvanized by James being fired and them generally not liking that. That was not a decision that was well received in that locker room and amongst families and everybody, right? Like it's just a wildly unpopular position for the people who are living it in the program. So there's sometimes that creates a spark. Sometimes there's like a moment where it's, and you saw it with basketball a few years ago with Jim Ferry and after Pat Chambers got fired. But it's still like now, okay, the game where the juice would have been the highest ended the same way as all the other ones. And that
1 point loss.
A 1 point loss.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing we're contractually obligated to do because we just are gonna do it. Like I'm gonna force everyone to sit through this.
Well, what about
Bo?
Yeah, Dad. Don't you think you should apologize to
Bo?
What about Bo? Rated PG. Maybe.
So right now, it is the end of the first overtime. 17-17. Missouri is tied with 3-3 Auburn. Bo Pribula has 21 of 36 for 240 yards and 2 interceptions. He has run 13 times for 20 yards in this game. So Bo locked in a battle to the death with the Auburn Tigers, 5-1, 16th overall in the rankings on the line. Bo, is he going to a championship game this year? We'll have to see. I'm not staying here on the show to like get to the end of that, but I just wanted to, we had to, if we had to do it all year, we're doing it all year. That's going to be the point of this show, is we're going to do everything the same way all year.
You glutton.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a slave to my process too. Maybe I should be fired. Don't agree with that. You're not allowed to agree with that. Nate, any final thoughts?
Yeah, we in some way, I think, and maybe you do too, like I feel a sense of relief over all of the conversations that we had for the first 6 weeks of the season that were like, if only this, right, then the running back usage, the receivers, the young receivers not getting enough reps, like all of those things that were like, well, this is mismanagement. And if this was handled differently, the results would be different. Katron was 2-1 tonight on.
More than that.
I'm saying by possession, and then it went completely to Katron. Right. Kobe Howard and Tyseer Denmark did get in the game. They got their 5 reps. They got their 8 reps, whatever it was. This is not a precision surgery. It's not a localized surgery. This is an amputation. This is most of the body is decomposing in front of our eyes.
It has gangrene. It's set in.
And so that's like, it's not if this happened, this would be different. This is they're shot. They're shot.
Yep. And Dan, I appreciate, I've been there before. And just like I said last week, like I'm actually very comfortable here now that I know what it is, now that I know where we are. I've spent 20 years being on this side of like, oh, this team isn't very good. And now we need to figure out why. I will be your mortician here. I will give you the autopsy down in the morgue on what's going on all these games. If that's what you're into, we'll talk about that for the rest of the season. And if you just want to vent, like we'll do that too. Like I'm going to have to do some stuff to have some fun here. So like I'm not making fun of you, just trying to have fun with it of like, who do you want to fire today? And we'll just like we'll get a wheel and we'll decide next week who it is going to be in that game after the Ohio State game. But Nate, thank you for being here. We got to everything that I wanted to get to. And I think if you want to talk more about this, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com is the place to be. We've got all the information. We've got more conversation. We've got more like-minded individuals that are yelling about this all night as well on our live thread. This is, if you're coming over from there, and if you don't, yes, everyone else is upset about this, and we've got a whole family of them over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Of course, we also have Terry Smith's post-game press conference. That is up right now. It's hot and cooking over on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, so go check that out. Thank you. Genuinely. Thank you to everyone that's been here tonight. This has been a good and productive show. Please come back. Don't abandon ship, because there's going to be a lot of news. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming up over the next several months, and we want to be a part of it with you here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. That's Nate Bauer. We'll talk to you later.